Good morning, America. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you here on this very special live. This is our Layout Collection live class. Did you get your hands on the, well, that incredible collection? We're going to go through it that Sarah had on a couple of weeks ago now, which is all about layout. It's all about comprehension when it comes to dies, when it comes to stamps, when it comes to, of course, the folders that you've got. But the whole point of the next 2 hours, yes, we're going to have fun. Of course we're going to have fun, but we're going to do die cutting, we're going to do embossing, we're going to step you through the basics. That's what we're going to start off with within the start of this couple of hours, because I am here for a couple of hours where we're going to go in with the basics. Then what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at some of the layout cards, quite a few of the layout cards in actual fact, and we're going to do some of the projects. Now some of the projects, we're going to do them as they are within the layout cards, but then what we'll do is we'll mix it up and we'll show you that the layout cards are there as a recipe. They are there for you to follow when it comes to the layout, but nothing's stopping you from changing the die that maybe you want to use your own die or your own stamp. The great thing is if you got your TS from the HSN when Sarah was on, everything is there together. It's all there when it comes to the box. All the goodies are there to craft with, and you know what? The storage is there as well. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to dive straight in. Shall we do an unboxing? Now, hopefully, you'll have already got yours, so therefore, you've probably already opened it. But let's do it again. Let's dive in and let's go into the unboxing here, because what you would have got with your TS, of course, is your binder. Now, not any old binder, a big, thick binder. That is, of course, going to serve a purpose. And you've got your lever arch here. Now, when it comes to the lever arch, you're also then going to be getting all of these dividers. Now, if you've got yours at home, you'll know it says stamps, and it says your dies, it's got your magnetic sheets as well, because that's there to serve a purpose. That's there to store what you've got inside. Now inside here is the worker bees when it comes to the layout collection here. This is what you're going to start to be using to create the layouts, whether you're going to be following what is within the layout cards, the recipe cards, or maybe you want to go rogue. Now look at this. This is absolutely jam-packed full. We've got our gems. These are all about the embellishments, such as the ribbons as well. Remember, your layout cards, they step you through the layout of your cards and your projects. But you need your dies to do the embellishments. They're in there as well. I have to say, I love the colours. I love the packaging. I love the way that you're going to be able to use these. Now we have then got our nesting dies. Now we've got a variety of nesting dies. We've got our straight edge. We've then also got our scallop. They're there to serve the purpose of doing the nesting dies, maybe doing the layouts, or maybe then to die cut out your stamped images. We're giving you some of the circles. You've then got your different layered circles with your scallops on the edge as well. So we're showing you some squares and some circles. We're then giving you the ovals as well. So whether you're just going to stamp an image, maybe you're going to die cut out a character stamped impression or even a die cut sentiment, you're going to be using the ovals a lot. We're then giving you these ones. These are your decorative frame dies. Now within these you've got the 5 different sizes, good for tags as well if you want to, but really, really key for your sentiments when it comes to your projects. We're giving you more of your nesting die frames as well, some more when it comes to the squares. Now when it comes to the square ones, they're still going to work with the smaller one. So everything ties in together. You can use them all individually or of course work them into your projects. Now you've got these ones here. Now at first glance, if you're relatively new to crafting after buying the layout collection on HSN with Sarah, you might think, well, what do they do? Do you know what? You can use these in a variety of different ways, but these are great for giving the edge of your cards a different look. So instead of that straight edge, you've then got all these 3 different edges. We all love our tags, don't we? We've got our 4 tag dies here as well. Do your little stamps in there, write your own little sentiments, or pop them on your parcels. They're in there. You've then got, I mean, these ones here, you've got your banner dies, you've got the 4 of them. All of these are nesting because they're going to nest on top, inside of each other, or they all work as standalone. We're giving you more of the circles as well, in which are going to tie in with the larger ones. You'll see throughout the next couple of hours how you can use them, the ways that you can use them, and the different looks that you can achieve from using them. These are your dies that you've got. So these are the key essential special when it comes to the layout collection. We're then going to be giving you your stamps too. Now, if you think all of these dies were a lot, wait until you see the stamps here. You've got your sentiment stamps, hugs and kisses, sweet wishes, best wishes, you are loved, hello, happy birthday. These are just a few, including thank you. So I would say, other than Christmas, you've got a sentiment for all these key occasions throughout the year. 20 of those stamps. Yes, they're going to work with the layout collection. I think you're going to be using these throughout your crafting as and when you so wish. What we have got as well is our folders. Now, this is where we're really going to start to step you through over the next couple of hours the way that you can use them. You have got your 5x5 rose folder. That is 2D, and we've also got a 4x6 3D. So I'll talk you through, step you through, and we'll demonstrate through each of these different ones and the different depths and the different looks. You've got your 3D. Then you've got your 5x7, which is a 2D one as well. So when it comes to the 2D one, you've got that full background, but you don't have to use it all. And I'll show you that within the next couple of hours as well. We've then got all of these stamps. So these stamps you're going to be using inside the layout of your cards and projects. You've got your teacup, your floral, your cakes. You've then got your dragonflies, your roses. All of these are coming to you within these two. We cannot give you an absolute bumper layout collection without the pattern papers and the cardstock as well. And that's exactly what we're doing. Now these are subtler. Now you may be used to our big, our bold design when it comes to our pattern papers. We've purposely kept them subtler so that they're nice on the background of your cards and your projects, but it's what you're building on the top. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to shout about. So that is going to be nestled in the background, not over to the top, but you know what? If you want to bring in all your other pattern papers, you can do that as well. Then we're not even finished. We're still going to be giving you all the linen cardstock. You know me by now. I don't need to bang on about how much I love linen cardstock. You know. So let's just go through here and show you the 8x8s. All of these, including the pattern papers, are 8x8. But look at these. These are like lollipop colours. Look at the fresh colours, the pastel colours, the fuchsias in there as well. So whether you're going with the spring, the foliage, that's all there. They're in there. And then when it comes to that binder that I showed you right at the start, this is what you're going to need. This is what you're going to use to combine all of this. So if I just bring these in my hand, and look at that, there's that much that you know that you'll have seen once you've got your hands on this layout collection. That is then going to be brought in with the layout cards. So these are going to go into the binder. Now the layout cards, what is this all about? This is all about giving you the helping hand, if needed, as to the layout of your cards and projects. These are going to go into the binder as I say here, so they're going to simply go in and you're going to pop them in. Now when it comes to the actual binder itself, once we pop them in, you're going to be able to open them. We're going to flick through mine just shortly, but I want to show you the first one here because it gives you the picture. This is an example as to what you might want to do. So when it comes to that one there is the finished card here. So what it does is it gives you that picture, but it gives you the sketch design here. So this is a rough sketch as to how you can create your layers. If I turn that one over there, you've got your 6 pictures and your 6 written as to how you can then create that card. All that's done with the essential elements within this layout box. But the thing is, you can chop and change. You maybe want to use a stamp from your Sarah signature. You might want to use a folder from your nature garden. You might want to bring in one of your pattern papers from another collection. You can do that. You've got the layout cards here to help you, and these all sit together in the binder. Now the binder is a lever arch binder, so this one is incredibly strong, it's incredibly sturdy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this one here. It's already here, it's locked. So what we're going to do is we're just going to lock it and unlock it. That's then releasing it. So once it's locked, that's not moving. So we're just going to unlock it. I'm just going to put that to the side, and then this lever arch here, you're going to lift. You're going to lift that. Now, I'm not going to put all of these in. I'll just put a couple in just to show you, but you're going to pop them in, slot them in. You're then going to close the lever arch, and then to stop all these pages from going up and down while you are moving it, we're going to put in, we're going to lock, and then that locks it. So that locks it down into there, and it stops all the pages from opening up. So that's how you're going to use that lever arch. So let me take mine out here, and then I'm just going to combine these back together. And that is everything that you'll have got within your layout collection, as you know. You'll have already got yours by now from HSN when Sarah was on just a couple of weeks ago, but it's now about how you use it. Yes, that is what the layout cards are there for, but what I'm here for as well, not only to give you the hints and tips to start with, but what we're going to do is we're going to actually do some of the projects. And we're going to do them slightly differently. Some of them we might do the same, but the thing is, the key thing, it's simple, it's fun, bringing it right back to the beginning. And you know what? The joyous thing, because we're live, I get to speak to you as well. So we do have comments coming through. I know we've got some coming up on our screen right now. I've got them here within my hand as well. We've got Jessica Strichter is in. She's watching on Facebook saying, I like the card layouts. I thought I can also use the dies with the template library. Brilliant. Maybe you've got the template library from HSN, tie them together. Love that idea. We've got Mrs. Simmons 333 on YouTube is saying, so happy to see this show, Craig. Thanks so much for putting this together. Have been waiting for this. Excellent. You're more than welcome. I was so happy when Sarah had asked me if I would do these lives, and I was like, absolutely, of course I will. We've got Melanie D. You'll also see some of your comments coming up on the bottom of the screen as well. But Melanie D's in saying, I've been working with this collection this week. I love everything about it. Like to hear that. Thank you for that one, Melanie. And Lois is saying, just got my kit. It's just lovely. It really is. The thing is as well, it serves that purpose. Whether you're a beginner, the thought process is done for you. If you're advanced, then of course, you can then keep it simple, or you can do all these different ways. If there is anything that you want to ask, if there is anything you just want to say, how much you love the layout, what you're going to be using it for, how you've used it so far, then do, of course, get onto the socials and ask away. We're here for the next couple of hours where we're going to be having lots and lots of fun. So also, if there is something specific you'd like to see from this layout collection, I will do my absolute best to do this live over the next couple of hours. But shall we go right back to basics? Now, when I say right back to basics, I quite mean right back to basics. I'm going to be going back to the basics of die cutting. We're going to go back to the basics of embossing and back to the basics of stamping as well. That is then going to lead us on to doing some of the projects when it comes to this live here. So I have got just loads and loads of beautiful cardstock and paper at the side of me for us to get started. Now, I'm going to bring in my binder here. So I'm not going to spend too long here. I just want you to show this is how it's going to look should you start to put them all in the relative chapters. And I say chapters, it is your index cards. There's your stamps. With your stamps, we've got all the dies. I mean, how cool does that look? For me, that's really cool, the way that they're positioned on the magnetic sheets. You've got them included. There's all your additional ones. And then we're going to go into the layout recipe cards. So this is what we're going to do later on within this live here. So let's go and let's open up these ones. So I'm going to bring these ones back. Let's open up our lever arch, and I'm going to pop these in front of me. The first one that I'm going to be doing, now you may think it's going to be the nesting dies. We're going to do that in a minute. But we're actually going to have a look at these edge dies. Because I know sometimes these are ones that sometimes you're never quite too sure as to how to use the edge dies. They really, really are simple, but sometimes you just need to get your head around the positioning on your card. That being, I've got a card blank. Now, I've just got a white card blank here, and we've got the 3 different edges. So if you want to have the different edge at the bottom of your card, choose which one you want. We've got the scallop, we've got the wave, and we've kind of got that torn edge. Let's actually do the torn edge. I like that one. I think that's a really, really fun one, because not everyone is comfortable about tearing their cardstock. So therefore, when it comes to this layout collection, having these dies here are an absolute essential. So I'm going to bring in my low-tack tape. So if we get our low-tack tape going, let me bring this one in because I've already got the end going, and we're going to start to do our cutting. I am going to go right towards the base of my card blank. You can go further up. If you want to get creative and go in at angles, you can do all of that. But as we said at the start, the beginning of this one is going right back to the basics. So we're going to then pop our tape into place We're holding it in, and I, of course, I'm going to be using the Gemini 2. So I'm going to be using the Gemini 2 plates. So for this one, we're going to go in and we're just going to lay it on. That's all that we're going to do. So that's at the edge of my card blank. Now when this comes to die cutting that we're going to do right now, all of these are what are classed as wafer thin dies. These are silver wafer thin dies. So what we need to do is we need to bring in our plate configuration. Base cutting plate, we're going to do our frosted shim, we're going to do our magnetic shim, and then we're also then going to do our top cutting plate. That's all that we need to do. I'm going to step you into the nesting dies just shortly, but as I said at the start there, this is about having a look at these edge dies. We're going to feed them up like we would do as normal. I'm just going to move that one out the way so you can see it better. And we can, of course, with the G2, we can then do the pause and then we can do the reverse. Just going to let that go all the way through. This is now going to give us that beautiful edge at the base of our card. So if I then open, bring this one in, we're going to tear that tape off here. So let's just carefully prise that one off there. And then we're going to do the same down at the bottom just here. Let's get a hold of the base. We're just going to then pull and bend that one back, lifting up our die, prise that away, take that tape off there, and then look at that. With absolute ease, we've now got a torn edge from our card blank. It is so simple. So that is how your card would normally be, and it is lovely. I like square edge cards, but by taking one of 3 of those edgeable dies, you can see there it creates a different edge. Could be a square card, it could be larger if you want to. The good thing with these dies, because of the length of them, that means they're going to then cut a variety of different size card. So when it comes to the edge of the dies, I know these are ones that would get asked quite a lot, so therefore that's why I thought we'll touch upon it first of all. But let's move it out the way. Let's move it out the way for now. I'm going to pop my card blank and let's have a look at nesting dies. I talk about nesting dies all the time, and when it comes to this collection here, they are focused when it comes to doing the layouts, but there is also a reason and a purpose to these ones. They're going to create depth, they're going to create interest, but then what they can then start to do is create that buildability and even your shaped cards. So this is also what we would class as a wafer thin die. So I'm going to bring in one of the card stocks that you get included here. And let's go in with the largest scallop here. So we're going to go in with the largest circle scallop. So that I can do a couple of layers at once, let's take my scissors and I'm just going to chop this down, because you can then go layer upon layer. These are also good to eliminate waste, which we'll talk you through in a moment. So if I take that one there, I'm going to sit that into here. Now the nesting dies, called nesting dies because they nest into each other. So we're going to take the next one, which is the next size down. However, you've got choice. You might not want to use that one. You might want to use the next one. Or you might want to use the next one down, or the smallest one. It's entirely up to you. But let's use the next 3 that are in the next line, because we'll show you how you can then build and layer on top of each other. So let's take our next one, and then we're just going to cut that one just so our die fits our card. And then let's take another piece. Let's take white this time. Let's take white. Tell you what, let's not do the third one. Let's go down to the next scallop here. Let's take the next scallop and we're going to chop that. We're going to bring these in. Once I've gone over this little bit, I'll show you all of the dies that have been cut, and we're going to lay these onto our plates. So once we've laid them on, we're just going to tack them down. We're going to tack them down into place here, and we're going to do our next one, and then we're going to do our third one. So once we've then layered them up, these are the same plate configuration. It's our base cutting plate that we're cutting into. We're going to do frosted, magnetic, top plate. We're going to lift and then we're going to feed that through. So those dies with the pressure of the Gemini, they're going to cut just beautifully, and they're going to cut perfectly. Now these dies could be going over a stamped image. So your stamped image is going to have a lovely beautiful outside edge, which we'll do later on within this live when we start to have a look at the layout cards. So if we take these ones, so there is our first one. Crisp, clean scalloped edge, and then you could put a little sentiment in there if you want to. But then because these are nesting dies, they start to nest inside of each other. So we've got our next one down that you can see. So you can then start to build your image, you can start to build your design, you could even start to build a beautiful flower that you can see here. Now because I've gone further down, we can see here, we're starting to get extra depth here. So if I'd gone in with the next one down, we would have seen we would have had a lot less of the pink. So have a play with these ones. But there's another way that nesting dies are an absolute godsend when it comes to your crafty stash, and that is eliminating waste. Now what I mean by that, underneath the lilac there, to me, that is a lot of waste. I don't want to waste my linen cardstock. So what you can do, take any of your nesting dies. Let's bring one of these ones in. So let's pop these back, pop them all back on your magnetic sheet. That's what they're there for. So pop them back, and then I'm going to come down, maybe come down the third one in. So I'm going to go in with the third one, and what we're going to do is we're going to tape that one down. So if we tape it down lightly, we can then get that central as we can, and I'm just going to run these through again. So it's still the same frosted magnetic top plate, and this is where you start to take your card and your paper that you've got within the layout collection, or whatever card and paper that you're using, a lot further. You're going to be able to use it for a lot longer because you are then just using the waste of bits that you're not going to see. So why not use them? So what I mean by that would have all been waste, as you can see here. But if I take that out, carefully prise that off, I've now got that full circle to use elsewhere. But look at this. No one would know that I've taken a bit out the centre. Then what you can then start to do is bring that back in to another layer. And this is what I mean by buildability when it comes to the nesting dies. If we take that out, we've now got a beautiful frame that you could put a picture in there of the kiddies, the grandkiddies, you know, it could be the pet, one of the animals, or you can start to make them into shaker cards. This is where you can then start to follow along with the recipe cards, the actual layout cards. So these are just your nesting dies. This is only a smidge. Now when I say I could do a live for 4-5 hours on this alone, I quite literally could do, because you can start to do all of that when it comes to all of these dies as well. You've got your banner dies as well. So before we move over into the embossing folders, let's show you these dies, because these dies are going to work with the sentiments that you've got. So if I bring these ones back in, so you've got a variety of different ones, as we can see here, and we've even got our tags here at the side. What I would say when it comes to these banner ones, this is the ones you're going to be using for the sentiments. Most of the time, I would be. Now sometimes you don't quite know what banner die to use with which sentiment stamp. So a good way to do it is, even if you've just got your stamps, you can then choose whichever banner die you want. So if I bring that back in so that we can see with the white on the background, I'm going to bring all of these in, and I'm just going to position them in front of me. You don't always want to do the initial cut in straight away. You want to make sure that you're happy with the die first before you cut. Hover with your stamp. So once you know the stamp that you want, so let's say Hugs and Kisses. To me, that one, way too big. That one, you know, it's still a little bit big, but then we're starting to see that one there, that would be a perfect one. It just sits in nicely, it hugs it nicely, and then therefore, beforehand, I may have cut all of them and I've only used that one. Now, of course, we'll use them again, but it's eliminating that waste and it's eliminating that time. That one, just a little bit too small. However, it would fit for the sunshine. So take your stamp sets, bring your stamps to your dies, overlay, position, see how they work before you commit to the cut. You know, if you do cut before and you change your mind, that's fine, you can always use them again, but it's just about using what you've got, using the packaging and using it to the best of your ability. So that's your stamps that you've got. We're going to do a little bit of stamping just shortly, but if I bring all of that and move that out the way, what we can then start to do is, there's the stamps, we're then going to start to come in with my folders. So if I bring in my embossing folders, so we've seen, I think, is it this one here? I've got that much goodies inside of me, in front of me. So I've got all my stamps, so we'll look for my folders in a moment. What we will do is let's do the stamping. Because we showed you the basics of the die cutting when it comes to your nesting dies, and I've shown you a little bit when it comes to the edges of the dies. So let's have a look at these stamps here, because this is where the stamps will work with the dies again. So if I just hover just one, and we are going to do a bit of cutting, but you can see how you can then choose what ones you want to use. So therefore, let's bring in our card. Now these stamps you're going to do either watercolouring or alcohol colouring. I'm not going to do much colouring because this is just about the layouts, the die cuts. So now that I've got my Neenah cardstock, I'm going to bring in a stamping platform, and I'm going to bring in a stamping mat. These are all basics when it comes to stamping. And we're going to bring our card and we're going to choose our stamp. So we're going to have a look and we're going to see, do I want the butterfly? Do I want the rose? Actually, let's do that rose because it is a beautiful rose here. Let's take that out, and when it comes to our stamping platform, we're going to pop that into the middle. Now the intention would be to do alcohol colouring. So I'm going to use my Noir Black. So I'm going to use my Noir Black alcohol-proof ink pad. So we're going to stamp and we're going to ink. We're going to move that to the side, and then what we're then going to do is we're then going to come along. I'm going to position that where I want. I'm going to come a little bit further in because keeping in mind I want to do a little bit of die cutting in a moment. So I want to make room for my die. So we're going to press that in, and you're going to do exactly the same. No matter what stamp you use, the only thing you're going to change is the ink pad, depending whether you're doing alcohol or water-based. Now within every single one of these stamps, you've got such a clean, crisp impression every single time. Then we get to choose the die. What die do we want to use to die cut it? So I think let's go in with, so we've got some of these as well. I'm going to stick with, I think what I'm going to do, let's go in with, I like the scallop. So I might do the scallop and then one of the largest squares in another colour cardstock. So I'm happy with that. So let's take our card. So what I'm going to do is roughly chop around, just roughly, with my scissors. Remember, the whole point as well when it comes to this layout is the options. I maybe wanted to use the circle, or I maybe wanted to use the oval. You've got that choice. Free to choose whichever one you want. So let's pop that over the top. But then what we can do is tilt it. Or we can go in another direction. We can do a diamond. We can shine bright like a diamond if you want to. But I am just going to keep it on straight. So don't ever think when it comes to the nesting dies that you've got within the layout collection, you have to keep them straight. We're going to then tape that down. But if I then bring in my other nesting die, one of many, and let's go in with a lovely bright yellow. And what we can then do is then we can start to layer these ones up. So if I layer these ones up when it comes to my plates, so let's bring this back in. So I've got my Gemini 2 plates. So we've got our base plate. So we're going to pop that in. We're going to bring in our cardstock again. We're just going to pop that in. You can, of course, roughly chop around if you want. But let's say you don't want to do that or you don't feel comfortable doing that. You can absolutely die cut straight in to your card. We're then going to go frosted, magnetic, top plate. We're going to align these together. And then we're going to feed these ones up. Now, when it comes to the layout collection, please do not think you have to have a Gemini. The dies work perfectly and beautifully with the Gemini because, of course, they work hand in hand together. If you do have another branded die cutting machine, your layout collection is still going to work. If you've got another branded ink pad or colouring pens or anything like that, it is still all going to work. So do not worry, but of course we've got the Gemini, so that is the plate configuration that I'm showing you. So if we take out that one here, there's our perfect square, even that one. If I take that one out, carefully take that one out, we're starting to get that framework. So we could come in with one of the other ones and build that frame. buildability, and that's what I'm loving about this. Then with our actual stamped impression, pop that one out. There's our frame again. See what I mean? No waste. Start to use these. That could be a stencil, ink it, spritz it, start to use them in all these different ways. But then by layering that over the top, onto a little bit of cardstock, pattern paper, and that's your card blank done once you've done the colouring. So it's about tying them together, but you need to know the ways to tie them together, and that's where the layout cards, they come, which we're going to talk you through just shortly. So we've done a key basics when it comes to the die cutting and when it comes to the stamping. We're going to do, and we're going to move on to a little bit of the embossing in a moment, because there's different ways in which you can use and you can actually emboss your 2D versus your 3D, but then you can die cut your cardstock and then you can emboss that. You don't always have to emboss a square piece of cardstock. So we'll talk you through that one just in a moment. But we have also got, now we've got Lois is saying, I got my kit, it's just lovely. Crafty Sentiments on YouTube is saying, I'm so excited, this is my first live class with you. Oh, I hope you enjoy it. I just thought, let's really rein it in. To start off with, I know many new crafters have joined after buying the layout collection. So to kind of, demystify any of the die cut and embossing and stamping, we'll go right back to the basics within this first live class. And in future, we'll start to get more advanced. Keep it simple, and then as we say, we'll focus on the actual layout cards just shortly. Elaine is in on Facebook saying, I have mine and I'm ready to learn. Heidi is in on Facebook saying, can't wait to use this kit. I consider this your essential basic tool set for card making. It is brilliant. I could not agree with you more, Heidi. Could not agree with you more. Absolute basics in all of the tools that you've got, but the great things and the ways that you can use them is absolutely astronomical. And Cindy Conde on YouTube is saying, love watching all Craig's demo. He's so easy to follow and his makes are fabulous. Bless you. That's really lovely of you to say. I appreciate that. Anything else you want to ask about the layout collection? Do ask away. Anything else specific that you would love to see again? Although I do have a plan of action for the full couple of hours. If there is anything, I'm sure I could kind of divert ever so slightly to meet your wishes. So let us know in the comments and we'll do our absolute best. Shall we do a little bit of embossing? I think we should. Do you know what I am going to? I'm going to be very cheeky as well, because I'm all on my own some here in the studio. I do have Liam next door and I've got you guys keeping me company, but it's thirsty work. So I'm going to take a quick drink. It's just water, by the way, unfortunately. And let's take our embossing folders, because we've got a few of them here. The designs, to say these are absolutely sublime is just an understatement here. I'm going to get a bit of black card, because this is going to show the design better, because we've got it imprinted in peachy pink. Now look at the butterflies. Now look at that. Now that, what I was referring to a moment ago, and what we're going to do, is you can die cut out all your shapes and then emboss them. You don't have to emboss full panels. So that's your 5x7. That's a 2D embossing folder, and I'm going to talk you through that in a second. What we've also got, which is a 2D embossing folder, and that is 6x6. I'm just double checking it is indeed 6x6. Now look at that floral, look at the foliage, look at the leaves, and it's the detail. So even although we say 2D, there is no detail being lost. And I'm going to explain, well, what is 2D, what is 3D? I'm going to explain that in just a second. This one here is what we class as a 3D embossing folder. Now that one is 4x6. And again, you don't need to use the whole lot. What you could do, take one of your nesting dies, die cut that into your cardstock, and then emboss that. And we're going to do that just shortly. So this is where so many ways in which you can use all of these elements. 2D and 3D. So 2D, these are your impression, your design, which is on one level. So once we emboss this in a moment, the design will be raised, but it'll all be on one continuous level. 3D, once we have embossed that, there's multiple depths of the design in there. So instead of it just being one level of embossed detail, there could be 2, there could be 3, there could be 4, there could be 5. It completely depends on the design itself. And I'm just going 1, 2, 3, 4. There's at least 5 levels of depth within this one embossing folder here. So let's show you how these look once you actually emboss them. So we're going to go in and we're going to do some inking. Let's get inky. This is the fun bit as well. And we're going to team these with our Harmony water reactive ink pads. But let's do our embossing with the 2D. So I've got a piece, this is our white multi-purpose cardstock, and we're going to do the butterflies. So when it comes to your folders, so whether it is a full piece of cardstock, whether it's a die cut piece of cardstock, you're going to open your folder and you're then going to sit it in. Now you've got 2 different ways that this is going to come out. You're going to get an emboss and you're going to get a deboss. So what I mean by that is we're going to close that. We're going to emboss it and I'll show you the emboss and the deboss. We're going to bring in our plates here for our Gemini. So let's bring that in. So if we bring our plates in here, so we're going to go in with our base plate. So we've got our base plate here, which we are then going to, of course, do our embossing on. So let's bring in our plate. What we're then going to do is we're then going to bring in our top plate. And then we're going to come in with our metal shim. So let's bring this one in here. We don't need our magnetic, and I'll talk you through that in a moment. So when it comes to our plates, we're going to pop our folder in. So we're going to pop our folder on our plate here. Usually, what we would say is your 2 cutting plates. That's what you're going to need. Now with the 2D embossing folder, many of us do actually like to add our metal shim in as well. What that's going to do, that's just going to enhance that 2D embossed detail ever so slightly. So we're going to lay them up and then we're going to go along and we're going to feed that into the Gemini. If you are using another branded die cutting machine, which you can absolutely do, you'll just need to check your own plate configuration for that die cutting machine. You just need to make sure that the plate configuration that you're looking for is for a 2D embossing folder. So let's take these plates out the way. So once again, a 2D embossing folder, which is also that one, is your 2 cutting plates, and you're more than welcome to add your metal shim in as well, just to enhance it if you so wish. What we can then do is open this up. So this is where you'll see your emboss and your deboss. So if I open that up here, what we've then got is we've got our butterflies, and that is debossed. Sorry, that one's embossed, and then what we can do is turn that over, and there's your emboss. How cool is that? So you've got 2 different looks, so you can use them in whichever way. Now that is very, very striking when it comes to your white card. But shall we add some ink? Let's add some ink. So let's do a little bit of a mix here. I'm going to do 3, you can do 1, you can do 2, it's entirely up to yourself. But I'm going to go in with a little bit of Oasis Parakeet and also the Lagoon. So what we're going to do is we're going to then start to ink it up. Now, to say as well, what I'm showing you when it comes to the die cutting, the embossing, this is all serving a purpose for when it comes to the recipe cards. This is all things that you're going to be doing and you're going to be able to start to do when it comes to the recipe cards. That's why we're starting off, really, really basic and working into the recipe cards, because this sort of style is what you're going to see within the recipe cards. So let's go in with the Oasis. And I'm just going to ink up my blending tool, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start to go around the edges. So what will happen is the ink is going to be picked up by the raised detail of the butterflies. Of course it could be the roses, but we're just going to ink all the way round. We're just going to keep our cardstock relatively flat, and then we're going to start to build up that colour. Now, I'm not going to go too much when it comes to the colour, because there's lots that I want to show you and I want to get onto the recipe cards, but what I want to show you is how it looks once you start to add colour. So whether you just start to frame your card that you can see here, and that is one level, that's one colour, but what about starting to add another one? So if we go in with, let's just go straight in with Parakeet. So we're going to go in with the Parakeet, and I'm just going to go around the edges, and what we can then start to do is see how that deep tone picks up the butterflies. So let's go into here, add that on, And then this is where it starts to build that card. So if you want to come along later on, which we'll talk you through just shortly, and then you can start to do your stamp designs, die cut with your ovals, and pop into position. You can still start to have the creative play. Let's just stick with the parakeet for a moment. If your card is relatively flat, what you can also do with your ink pad, any ink pad, just sit it on and work it around in circular motions, keeping it relatively flat as best you can, and that really starts to pick up the detail. How smart is that? That's going to work with any ink pad. Just make sure it is relatively flat and you're going to be able to do that. So that is simple embossing when it comes to your 2D embossing folder. Let's have a look and see. I've got lots and lots of goodies here. Right, tell you what, how about inking and sanding back, which could then be that back platform for your cards when you're following the recipe cards. So I'm going to go in with our 2D embossing folder once again, but this time we're going to go in with the rose. So this is that gorgeous rose design that we've got here. What I'm also then going to do is bring in another piece of card, and let's go in with a few different colours. Let's go in with our fuchsia, I'm going to go in with our lemon tonic, and then I'm going to go in with, let's do the parakeet again. So for this one, because this is still a 2D embossing folder, we're going to do exactly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our plates, we're going to pop our cardstock in the middle here, and we're going to emboss, but before we emboss, we want to ink. You can do either or, it's up to you, but we're going to do the inking first. So with the first one, we embossed, then inked. This one, we're going to do our inking first and then embossing, because this is where we're going to sand back the design in a moment. So let's bring in our ink pads here. So let's go in with a little bit of the lemon tonic. What I'm also going to do is let's just take a little bit of that excess parakeet that's on my glass mat. Let's give that a little bit of a clean up here, and let's start to ink. So we're just going to ink into sections, and this sort of technique, this is very, very forgiving. So we don't need to worry too much about the position of our ink, the lay down of our ink, and what I mean by that is if you've got any harsh lines, don't worry about it, because really you're not going to see it. When you see that wow factor of embossing and sanding, it really will elevate your cards and your projects that you make from the layout cards. So that's one done. Let's go in with fuchsia. Let's add our blending tool on, and we're going to pick that colour up. So we're going to go into sections. This is our Harmony Water Reactive, so therefore they're all going to blend beautifully together. As you can see, as I was meaning a moment ago, I'm not bothered about being patchy, because we're going to blend it in, but it's going to look really smart. Let's take our next one and do a little bit of parakeet, and we're just going to add just a little bit, covering these little white areas here, here, and then here. I'm going to go back to the lemon tonic, and then we're just going to do a little bit of a blend in. We're just going to get in there. We're just going to lay that down, add a little bit of pressure, blend it all in together. If you want to come back with a wee bit more of the lemon tonic, because it's the lighter tone, so we're blending over the top, you can do that. I'm not going to spend too long. Let's add these in, ink that up. Now that is our basis. That is our basis to start the embossing. So let's bring it in. So we're going to go in. When it comes to embossing, 2D or 3D, what you want to do is you want to have a look and see, because depending on the side of the card, it's either going to be embossed or it's going to be debossed. So I want the design to be pushed upwards. So I want it to be raised up onto this inky background. So I can feel there that all that detail is raised up, it's pointing up. So therefore I'm going to sit it there, and then that means once I close it and we emboss it, what happens is all of that detail is going to be pushed up into my cardstock. So we're going to bring in our plates. So base plate and our top cutting plate. Remember, as I said before, personal preference, but I do like to add in my metal shim just to enhance it that little bit more. I can see a couple of questions coming in. So once we've done this bit, before we move on, what we'll do is we'll have a look at these ones. But we're going to let it do its thing. And then as that one does, what we're going to do is then run that one through, bringing that one out. Well, I'll show you that one here. I can see Mom King on YouTube is saying, what paper is Craig using? So this one, I've just used our white multi-purpose. Although I'm doing on water reactive ink, I am not doing any water technique. So you can see on the screen, Mom King is saying, what type of paper is he using? That's water reactive. That is white multi-purpose with my water reactive. If I want to spritz with some water, I would have used my watercolour cardstock. So hopefully that helps. So now I've got that inky background with that floral design, and then I'm going to come along with my sanding block. So I've got a block here. Now this could be just a fine sheet, not too coarse. You want it quite fine, sandpaper, and we're going to sand that back. So what that's going to do is the raised detail is going to be sanded, and it's going to be left with white, and then we're going to be left with all of that beautiful fuchsia, lemon tonic, and parakeet all the way into the background. So we're going to run that through. We're going to then add that on, pressing down, and then we're going to then take away that excess. Within the layout collection, you'll know the cardstock that you've got is your linen cardstock, which is this one here. If you wanted to just emboss the linen and do this, this would work the same as well. Your linen cardstock has a white core that we can see here. So simply emboss your linen cardstock and then take your sandpaper, and that's going to give you the same result. So it's a good thing to do as well. Let's just add that on, a little bit more pressure, take that off. If you've got like a little microfiber cloth or something, take away any of that excess. You can go a little bit more heavier handed if you want, you can go a little bit lighter if you want, but you can see that you've got a really, really cool background. That's a background which could be the basis of one of your projects, the 30 projects from that layout collection. So we're going to add that to my stash as well. Don't worry, we are going to get onto the actual layout cards. I want to have a look at one other thing, which is your 3D embossing folders, and then we can get onto the layout cards here. We have also got, who's just popped on there, Heidi is saying, brilliant, fabulous. You guys knock it out the park with these sets. It's a good one, isn't it? It's a really, really, really good one. Lynn is saying, I got my layout collection. I love all the nesting dies. I'm with you there as well. Absolutely, Lynn. Sherry's in saying, love that butterfly embossing folder. We've got Cindy Conde on YouTube is saying, I love how Craig explains what I'm going to read that one out again. I love how Craig explains what we need to cut as well. I still have to look up for the directions. I'm glad I'm able to help. I'm glad I'm able to help in that way. Sherry is saying this collection is well worth the money. Also Sherry is saying, I was amazed when I started putting everything in the binder. It keeps going and going and going, doesn't it, into the binder. Keeps on going, which is great for you, all these goodies to play with. We've got Cindy Conde on YouTube is saying, look at all those gorgeous colours. Mrs. Simmons on YouTube, oh my gosh, Craig, that sanding technique is genius. Please try it. Please, please try it. Inky background, or of course, your linen cardstock, anything like that. Anything that's got a white core works an absolutely treat. Sherry Yates is saying, very cool, Craig. I forgot about the sander. Alicia is saying, what grit of sandpaper do you use? It's one of the finest sandpapers that you can get. So if you're out there in a hardware store, DIY store, look for one of the finest sandpapers you get. You don't want it too gritty, too coarse, because what that's just going to do is that's just going to totally rip the fibers off the top of your card. You want it to be light sandpaper, and you build up the strength. Melanie D on YouTube saying, really cool technique. And Susan Trob on Facebook saying, getting excited to open it up and play. If you've not opened it up yet, I cannot wait to see on social media what you guys make when it comes to the layout cards when you post them online. Do that. Make sure you do that. Anything that you make in the group, pop them into, of course, the Fans of HSN, Fans of Crafters Companion on HSN group, and do make sure that you tag Crafters Companion each time. You're more than welcome to tag me, because I would certainly love to see it as well. The choice is there. But let's have a look at these folders before we move on here. And this is the 3D embossing folder. The 3D one, which is giving you extra depth, as I was saying beforehand. So if we bring in, see, I'm getting, there we go, it's right to the side of me. We're getting a right creative play, which is great. Right, we're going to go in. What we can do is we can do what's called a letterpress technique. Now, this can absolutely be done with the 2D as well, but let's do this with our 3D. So for this one, let's do, decisions. Let's do Oasis, I think. Yeah, let's do Oasis. So we've got our Oasis here, and we're going to cover our embossing folder. Now, I'm going to do both sides because that's going to give us two different looks. So we're going to run our embossing folder over, or our ink pad over our embossing folder. It will not damage your embossing folder, do not worry. Some colours may stain ever so slightly. For instance, fuchsia is a little bit of a nuisance sometimes. It can stain. As long as you've got all that excess ink off, it will not affect any future embossing, so please do not worry. What we can then do is, once we've inked up our folder, I'm just going to pop my cardstock into place, and then we're going to close it. So we're going to close that, and then for this one, because this is 3D, this is where the plate changes. So we're going to go in with our base cut and plate. We're going to go in with our folder. We're then going to go in with our magnetic shim, and then we're going to go in with our frosted shim. So that is base plate, it's your folder and your cardstock, it's your magnetic shim, and then it is your frosted shim. We're going to feed that one through. The reason being is if you do the two cutting plates, that's too thick, because your 3D embossing folders are thicker. So because the 3D embossing folders are thicker, your plate configuration needs to be thinner. So we take out one of the cutting plates and we replace with the magnetic and the shim. What we're then going to do is we're then going to show you how these look. So if I show you the deboss sign to start with, that's the deboss. So the ink has then been pressed into all the detail, but the emboss, look at that. So the emboss, all the detail has been kept crisp and clean, even all these tiny little dots, but the background, the ink, has been pressed onto the cardstock. So that one is absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful technique, and could you imagine, well, I couldn't even imagine trying to do it. Say you wanted to try and get all that inky background, but you wanted to get no ink onto that floral. That would be quite hard. Even I wouldn't even attempt it. So that's a really good way. But you can still come along if you want to. Please do not think that you cannot add any additional colour. You can absolutely do that. I'm going to do one last thing before we do move on, and that's to show you about the colouring. So let's bring in, this is white multi-purpose again, and let's bring in that nest and die. This is also going to show you how you can die cut your cardstock and then emboss that. So it doesn't have to be that full square. So let's take our die and let's take our plates. So we're going to bring these in and we're going back to die cutting. So we're going to pop our base plate down. We're going to come along with our die and we're going to cut that out. So for that one, what we're going to do is we're just going to tape it. And because we're die cutting, that's going to be our frosted, magnetic, and then top plate. So we're going to feed that one through. What I'm going to do as well, let's just take that, I'm going to get some of that excess ink off. I'm not going to get it completely off unless I was using a wipe or putting it under lukewarm water. So let's move that one here just for now. I know I've got some wipes just to the side of me here, but I'm just going to try and save a little bit of time. Let's go in and just use our little microfiber cloth. So now, what we've got is we've got our oval. We've got our scalloped oval here. And what I'm doing here, we could do with any of these. And we're now going to change the look of our embossing. So what we can do this time is I can see my design here. Let me bring in another bit of black just so you can see what I'm doing. See that floral? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that underneath, and then once I'm happy with where I want it to be, I'm going to close it. So see, I'm not filling the full folder. You don't have to. You never have to fill the full folder every time. You can just do sections. So we're now going to do that again. So base plate, we're going to put in our magnetic and then our frosted shim, and we're going to feed that one through. So this is going to show you how. What you can do is you can then emboss a certain size die cut, and we're going to do a very quick bit of colouring. Very, very quick, because this is all about, predominantly this, well not predominantly, it's all about the layout collection, not necessarily colouring as such, but I want to show you this one here. So if I open this one up, take that away, and then we can see we've still got that design here. Some of you might think, well that's great, you've just done that there. Craig, why don't you just take your die and die cut that? I would highly recommend not to do that. And the reason being is what you're going to do is you're going to flatten that. You've just spent that time embossing that detail that if you come along with the die, what you're going to do is, because of the pressure of your Gemini or your die cutting machine, you're going to flatten most of that design. So if you're wanting to emboss a die cut shape, die cut the shape first and then emboss it, and then that means you're going to get the die cut, you're going to get that incredible emboss. You can still do that letterpress technique that I've just done here, or what you can do is you can then still come along with things such as your alcohol pens, your tri-blends, your classic pens, and although there is no physical black outline like a stamped impression would give you, what you can do is you can then follow the outer edges of all the embossed detail, and then we're going to start to colour. So you can now create your backgrounds, you can then of course create the foregrounds. This could be one element of one of your layout projects if you want to. We're just going to do a little bit of build and depth. I've got one finished to the side of me just here, but nothing stops you from colouring your embossed detail. Let's just quickly go into here, cherry pick sections, let's blend that back out, and you can keep on going. So you can then do things such as your letterpress, you can then die cut and emboss, and then once you do that, and although that I've used a different nesting die on purpose, goes to show, so whether you're using the larger scallop, whether you're using the small oval, or of course that could be a circle, it could be the square, it could be absolutely any of them. So that's tying all of these in on their own without even going to the recipe cards just yet from that layout. And this is where it really is. It's one of those, whether you're using the recipe cards from the layout, or if you're just wanting to use these as key essentials, stamp dies, etc., you can absolutely do that. So let myself get tidy up, because that's all good. But I think we want to see the layout collection cards in action, don't you? I hear you at home. I hear you at home. You're saying, yeah. Melanie D saying that's such a cool tech. I think I read your one out, but I've read it out again, Melanie. We've got Patty is saying, Patty Road on YouTube saying, hello and good morning. I just love this kit. Made so many cards already. Thank you, CCTV team. And Craig, you're just awesome. Just love all your tutorials. Bless you. Thank you, Patty. That's really kind of you to say. Candice is saying, I never knew how to use embossing folders or ink. Thank you. Brilliant. I'm so glad that we've been able to help you when it comes to this live here, Candice. Cindy Conde on YouTube saying, I have tossed many ink embossing papers away because I've inked the wrong side. I think it's genius. Just ink both sides. See how it looks and use the side you want. Absolutely. I used to do the same. Choose one side, ink it. Oh gosh, I've done the wrong one. Just do both sides. Doesn't matter. You're not going to see the other side that you don't want, so do both. Susan is saying, thank you for going over the plate sandwich configuration. You're welcome. I know it's always one that we get asked, certainly when it comes to embossing folders. And Patty is saying, I have my kit, excited to watch the videos and get crafting. Excellent. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear. Right, I am, while we just have a quick chat. Are you having a lovely morning so far? I know it's quite early in the morning for some of you guys, but I hope you're going to be tuning in and getting a bit of crafting done today, that's for sure. Hopefully this live is going to set you off in the right through. Can you believe we are already halfway through this live? It's crazy, absolutely crazy. It's just flown in. Absolutely flown in. 1 minute is right at the very start, and the next minute we're halfway in. For those that are watching in America, it is bang on 3 p.m. here in the UK. So we're getting towards later in the afternoon. I can see outside the window here, it's already starting to go dark, which for me, near Christmas, is great. I love that. I love that. But yeah, I hope you've got a good day planned coming your way, whether you want to be crafting or chilling. Maybe you've got to do a little bit of work. We all have to do it. Is this work? Is this work? I'll let you decide on that one. Right, recipe cards. I have got some projects here. Let me get another drink here. I've got some projects here, and I've got quite a lot of them, as well as the finished samples. I see lots of comments popping in again, so it's lovely to see. Let's dive in and have a look. I'm going to bring out my first one. What I've got is I've got all of the elements. I'm going to put these out here. We're going to start with number 1. Now, you've got 30 of them. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get 30 done when it comes to this one. Of course, this will be a series, so we will be doing more. But we're going to start at number 1, and this is what we're going to be doing. And this is your first one, Hugs and Kisses. It's number 1. Of course, if you're going and you're following it in with the binder that you've got included, then it's going to be the first one. Finished example, should you wish to replicate it. There's your sketch as to how you can build it up, and then you've got your steps as well. The steps step you through how to create that card. Now, this is just an idea, because you can use your own papers. You might want to change the stamp. You might want to change the folder. Further. So I've got all these different components here to the front of me. So let's start this one off. So we are essentially going to be making what is on the front here. So where do we start? Well, we're going to start with our card blank. Now, you've all got card blanks. It will easily make your card blanks at home, and it's a 6x6 one. So whether you want to use or follow the pictures or the written, it is all there for you. Now, I'm not necessarily going to do any of the colouring, because again, I want to get through as many of these recipe cards from this layout as possible. So I've got bits of these colouring done. But to start off with, we're using the papers. We're using the papers, and we're using the linen cardstock. Now, forgive me if I don't go through every measurement, because again, as I say, there's a number of these I want to go through, but I must stress, if you've not opened yours yet, all the measurements are there for you. It tells you the size to cut your pattern paper, which is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. It tells you the size to cut your linen cardstock and your card blank side. So it is all there for you to then, of course, follow with the recipe card. So we're simply going to start there. We're going to start by layering these two together. Remember what I said at the start as well. When it comes to, let's get our straight tape runner, the pattern papers from this collection here, on purpose, they're not overly bold that you would maybe expect from our paper pad, because this is going to be the basis of your card and your project. We don't want to over-empower your card or your project, so you've got that light design. So simple mats and layers. Remember what I showed you before about waste? What we could have done before we've stuck that down is we could have used one of the die cuts onto the back of this linen cardstock. No one would have known, and I would have had another piece of linen cardstock to be using down the line. So think about these little tips and techniques that I showed you at the start. We're going to line these up onto the cards. Now, when it comes to the actual layout card, it tells you, use it in the way that you would do normally, but you might want to change it and do a tentfold card. Up to you. Entirely up to you. So let's pop these ones in here. So what we can do is bring in the recipe card once again, and you can follow along. So we've got our strips here. Again, it tells you the size of the strips. So we're going to go and we're just going to add these ones on. So we're going to pop them along the top. I've got mine just a slight bit longer because I like to have mine a little bit longer, and then I trim afterwards. So we're following and we're adding these ones on. And I don't know about you, I'll always have bits like that left over. Sometimes I don't always know what to do with them. What a great way to use them. And we're following. That's exactly what we're doing, is we're following. So let's take our scissors and then let's snip that away. Crafting with Marilyn, you're more than welcome. The basic review was excellent, Craig. Thank you. I'm so glad that you found that helpful. I appreciate your comments. Now we're going to go in with a couple of bits of cardstock. So these happen to be 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, which tells us here, this is where we're going to bring in our folder. Remember what I was saying about you don't have to use the full size of the folder. We're going to pop that in and we're going to close it. Now what you'll have maybe not noticed is, if I bring the die in, that has been cut. Now is it going to be this one from that one there? So we've used our die to die cut, and I'm going to keep on saying this, so forgive me, it tells you in the recipe cards. So if you think, oh, what's Craig done there? It's there on the layout cards. So even though that's a small square, we're just going to close that up. We're going to come in with our plates, and if you remember the 2D embossing folder, base plate, we're going to do top plate, but you are more than welcome to add in your metal shim as well, just to enhance that. So we're going to then run that one through, and you'll start to see some of the things that I've done in the first half as to why I've done these. For instance, embossing your card and then inking. The reason I've showed you that is because that's what we're going to do next, but I don't need to do that now. I can get on with the layout because I've shown you how to do it. So what I mean by that is, let's take this out, open it up, and look at that, even just on a little die cut square, get the detail within that butterfly. Now, if you want to come along with, and the colour that I've used is fuchsia. Remember when I inked all the way around that one? Well, you're going to do that 3 times. You're going to do that 3 times, and there's your layout that you can start to see. So we're going to do 1, let's do the butterflies in the right way. We don't want them to be flying to Australia. Let's go into there, and then let's go into there. So now you'll start to see why I showed you certain things at the start of this hour, tying them all together. So let's start to add that on. So let's add our tape on here, and that could be parakeet. That could be honeypot if you wanted it to be. That could be a metallic ink pad if you've got one, or you could leave it white. That could be one of the other squares if you want to, or it could be our shimmer ink pads, duet ink pads. You can see where I'm going with this one here. The recipe layout cards are there for you to start and follow, and you can change it as you want. So I'm going with the pictures. Remember, you've always got the sketch as well. You can start to see that outer edge. I've got the 3 strips. I've got the overlap emboss, and then we're going to go in to a little bit more die cutting. So I'm going to go in with one of the yellow linen card. I'm going to set that to the side for now. What I've already done, and I showed you earlier on, was stamping out our rows. So if I bring in the die, so if I bring in, I want to say it was that one here. Remember, wafer thin die, so that is your base cutting plate, that is then your frosted magnetic, and then your top plate. Running that one through your die cutting machine, which gives you that. So I tell you what, we need to cut that. So let's just cut that anyway, just while we're doing it. So let's bring in the die set here, and we're going to bring in our smaller scalloped nesting die. That's going to go into there, and the reason I know is because that one's going to sit nicely over the top. It's all about layering. So once I've done that one, that's going to get cut. We're going to then come along, let's go in with a little bit of the green card that you've got included, because remember, you've got all these embellishment dies as well. So we're going to run them through. So let's bring in our plates, bring in each of these cutting plates here, and then we're going to layer these on. So we're going to tidy that up just in a moment once we've cut them. We're going to place that on into position. We're going to bring in our low tack tape. We're going to then tape that in. I would always recommend, and this is just my personal preference, and that is cut and then colour afterwards. I always have this little fear, and it's just a little fear, that you spend all that time colouring, then you go to die cut, and God forbid, a little mistake happens, the die slips, it moves, and then it cuts through your coloured image. So I always like to do the die cutting first, and then I'll colour last. Wafer thin die, base plate, frosted, magnetic, top plate, line up, and then we're going to feed that through. We're just going to let that go through. So that's going to do these layers. We can then build them together. We're going to do our sentiment. That's going to be our first one. So you can see how this starts to come together. So let's bring this one out. Needless to say, if you've got your smaller die cutting machines, they're going to work with them as well. So there is our rose. Colour that with a little bit of magenta tri-blend, and you can ink around the edges if you want to when it comes to your fuchsia. And all that you would do with that one, bringing in your ink pad, bringing in your blending tool, and then you're just going to tickle the edges. You're just going to tickle all the way around, highlight the edges, and that's all that you need to do should you wish to do that. So that's how I've got to that point there. So let's take this one, and we're going to then just pop that one out there. We're then going to bring in, we don't need that one now, and then we've got this one here. So we've got that one, and then that one. And then before we assemble it, let's bring in our chosen sentiment. So I've got a piece of card which I've already stamped out hugs and kisses. You've seen me stamp out earlier on the rose. I've just done exactly the same. So now that we've got our hugs and kisses, this is where you can come in with these banners. So if we go in with that one here, you can have a look. So you see you've got two ways. Either put the die over the top or refer back to what I showed you earlier on about hovering the actual backing sheet over the die so that you can decide which one that you want. So let's go with the smallest one. And then we're going to lay that over the top. We're then going to tape that down, and then all that you would do is do what I done a moment ago. And in actual fact, we could have cut it at the same time. Same plate configuration because it is a wafer thin die, so it is still your base plate, frosted, magnetic, and top plate. And once it's cut out, that's what we're left with. So we now get to the point where we finish off our layout. So I've got, the only difference I've got here, it's exactly the same. The only difference, I've already got my foam pads on the back. So let's take these ones off. Height and dimension, that is a choice. So if you want to keep it flat, you can absolutely do that. Just showing you that I've still got my recipe cards there to see. I've done my rows, started to do my layout. I'm just going to pop that on. We're then going to go in, and we're going to pop the row. Let's go that way. We're going to go in with our little leaf. We're going to add our tape onto the bottom just here. We're going to tuck it in. I'm following exactly what is on the recipe cards. We're going to press, and then we've got our hugs and kisses. We're going to take that off with the foam pads, and then we're going to position that over the top there. And we've got our layout exactly the same as to what is on our layout card there. But I've chosen to do it the same. You can do it whichever way you want, colour-wise. So we can do it traditional open, we can do it as a tent fold if you want to. You can start to bring in your easel cards, twisted easels, change the colours, change the papers, change the stamp, change the sentiment, change anything that you want. It's entirely up to yourself, but the recipe card for the layout collection is there for you. Right, now that I've done that one, let's have a quick little tidy up here. We'll have a look at the comments because I want to get through as many of these cards as I possibly can. So I'm going to be good. I'm going to pile them all together, and I've got a couple of hours afterwards that I can come along and properly tidy. So pop all that there. Oh, I've got all these extra goodies that I'm going to be able to play with afterwards as well. Right, pop that there. And then the next one that we're going to go on to, let's take that tape off. I don't want to lose any of these. Just looking at all these comments out the corner of my eye. Mrs. Simmons, time does fly when you're having fun, doesn't it? Really, really does. Let's bring in the next one. We'll get ourselves set up, and then we'll have a quick look through again and see. Gosh, I keep getting distracted. Mrs. Simmons, here. Let's do them just now. because it's going to break my concentration. Right, we have got, where were we there? Ellen is saying, hello Craig, I never thought to ink. Oh yeah, I've read that one again. I should really, really pay attention as to where I ended on the comments. That would help. Lisa P is saying, Craig, the recipe cards might put you out of a job. Lol, joke. You're too fun to watch. I say this quite a lot. I don't care whether you're laughing at me or with me, as long as you're laughing. Predominantly, I would like you to be laughing with me and not at me, but if you are, I don't mind. The main thing is that you're having fun. You never know, it might have me out of a job. You never know, you never know. I ain't going anywhere. I ain't going anywhere. We've got... I'm going to tell you what I've just heard in my ear, because I do have Liam in my ear, and he's just said, we've tried. And I'm still here. Joking, they've not. Mrs. Simmons is saying, can you use these layouts with all my Christmas stash, papers, stamps, etc.? It's so fun. You can, absolutely you can, absolutely. Any time of the year. Rose M is saying, loving the tutorials for the new layout collection. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. Kim Rice on Facebook saying, I do love a lot of the background using those strips. I've been doing it more and more as well. Lois is saying, beautiful card. Thank you. I'm glad that you liked that card as well. Although it was in the layout. I just copied what was on the layout. Anything else that you want to ask? Anything that you want to see again? We've got about 45 minutes left of the show, so I really should get cracking with these other layouts as well. This whole couple of hours, this live is all about, for all of you guys stateside that got your hands on the layout collection on HSN, that was the TS, the latest TS from us at Crafters Companion with Sarah. So this is now enabling you to see the basics as to how you can start off if you are a brand new crafter. Sometimes even as an experienced crafter, it's nice just to, of course, go back to the basics again. So hopefully that's helped, as many of you were saying that it has, which is nice to know. So let's go on to our next one. So the next one we're going to go on to is number 6. Number 6, I've got my recipe card is here. So that is what's on the recipe card of the layout card. However, that's what we're going to do. See what I mean? Same layout, but different imagery, all from the layout collection. So where we need to start within this one here is getting all of my bits and pieces ready. So I'm going to pop them out into the front, and we're going to start with our layers. So I've got these layers all good to go. You've still got the sketch as well that you can see, and we're just going to turn that one over. So within this one, we've got some blues and we've got some blacks. I've gone for greens and whites. The white is the only piece that I've used from my own stash. It's white multi-purpose, but the measurements are still all exactly the same. So let's start to layer these ones up here. We're going to then add our tape to the back. I'm using the tape. You can use your tissue tape if you want. You could use your tacky glue if you want to, but we're going to lay that on into position. So we're going to lay that on, add that on with our tape, and we're going to add that to the back, which is our green. Now we're not going to add it to our card blank just yet, which is a DL, or we call it DL, it's more of a slim line for you guys stateside. But before we pop that on, we're going to go on with a little strip. So we're going to add that one on with our tape. We're going to pop that one right within the middle, because I'm still following the layout cards. But before we go any further, I want to do my crisscross with my ribbon. But instead of doing blue, I'm using the peach. So here what we're going to do is we're just going to add our tape to the back, and then we're going to cross over. So I'm going to go on at an angle, and even when it comes to the ribbon, the direction of the ribbon you can change. You maybe want it on a real angle, or you maybe want it on a slight slant, up to yourself. But we've got our tape on the back, and we're just going to bend and press. We're then going to do exactly the same here. We're just going to cross that over, fold it over, and then we're going to press. And there is our cross that we can see within our recipe cards. I'm going to keep reiterating this once again. If I don't go over specific measurements or that, every single measurement and step is there on the layout recipe card for you. But now that we've got our ribbon secured, what we can then do is secure that to our card blank. So we're going to add our tape all the way round. We're going to bring in our card. I'm going to make sure it's the right way and pop that in. So there is our card blank ready to go. We're going to do a bit of stamping. So I've already done the stamp for the cupcake. Now this one stamped it in the exact same way that I done the rose earlier on within this live here. So we've got that one there. What we're then going to do is we're going to bring in one of these essential nesting dies. So if I bring this one in, I know we've got another question just come through from Dale there, so I shall answer that in just a second, Dale. I can see it pop through, so don't fear, I shall answer you back. So now we're going to go in with that square with the scallop, which is going to fit over the top. That one's going to be cut there, but what we've also got is my cardstock that we're going to then, of course, cut with our die. So if I take this largest die, which we can then cut out, which gives me that one, and then essentially we would do what we'd done beforehand, but with our floral embossing folder. So the floral embossing folder, we would then emboss that one. So that's going to be your 2 cutting plates and your metal shim, if you wish to use that. And by adding your honey pot inking, like I done earlier on with that butterfly background, that's how it's going to look. You might want to change the colour once again, and that's the whole purpose of this, changing it if you want. Once you've die cut and you've coloured, that's how that's going to look. So if I bring this one in, although that we've got the tumbling teacups, I've got the cupcake instead, and within this one, they've inked the background, the embossed background within a blue. I've done the honey pot. So we're keeping the layout the same. All we're doing is changing colours. So that can then start to get layered up onto here. Now once we've layered that one up, we've got our little embellishment dies as well as our circle dies, which are good as embellishments. So this tiny one, where you've got 2 smaller ones, if you take a little scrap of the pattern paper from the back, it gives you that. It gives you a little button. So things that you don't necessarily will see at first glance can look completely different. Our little circular button here, and then if I bring in our happy birthday, which I've already stamped, and although that's a sentiment, stamped it in the same way as that rose before, our stamping mat, stamping platform, and our noir black. For that one, what we can do again is we can come along with one of our little banners and die cut. All die cutting that I'm doing is the exact same plate configuration. 2 cutting plates, frosted and magnetic. There's no other different die configuration. It's all exactly the same. That then gives you the happy birthday. So we can then carry on when it comes to filling our card, when it comes to the layout. So let's take the foam pads off the back just here. Let's take these ones off. Height and dimension is optional. You don't have to have the height if you don't want to, but by following the recipe cards as it says, we're going to add that on. I could have tilted that at an angle if I wanted to. When it comes to this one, we're going to add that on into place here. Press that on, keeping that flat, and then what we're going to do here is we're going to cross over with our sentiment. Pop that here. I'm going to come a little bit further on and press, and then my little circular button that I've created, I've got a foam pad there. I'm just going to tuck that one underneath there, and that is the exact same layout. It's just different paper, different colours, different image, but it's all from the layout collection. But then you're going to think, I'm going to use all my other stamps and all my other dies and all my other papers by following the recipe cards. So you can see where the layout collection keeps going and going and going. When we bring out Sarah's Signature Nature Garden in 2025, you're going to be able to use all of that with the layout collection. You know what I mean? We've just had our 18th birthday at Crafters Companion. In another 18 years, all your cards, your paper, and gosh knows what else we're going to be doing away then, you'll be able to use with the layout account. It's that key essential to start building your cards and your projects if you need it. Right, that's another one done. So let's then just start to tidy these little bits up. So Dale is asking, hi Craig, I noticed you use the tri-blends, but do you have to use the Neenah cardstock since these cut papers will bleed if they are not Neenah? So, if you're wanting to do colouring and blending, then your white cardstock is going to be the best one. So Neenah is going to be the best one. If you don't have Neenah cardstock, you can use your white multi-purpose. That is a good substitute. It's not the best for your alcohol colouring, but it's a good substitute. So if you don't have Neenah, please feel free to use your white multi-purpose. You can absolutely colour on your pattern paper with your alcohol pens. The only thing is, because it's a pattern paper, you're not going to get that blend. You want that nice, clean, crisp, white layer of cardstock to build up that blend. So yes, you can colour on your pattern paper, you're just not going to get a blend. If you are going to do that, I would still put a little bit of scrap underneath just to stop any bleeding coming through. Hopefully that helped. If it's not quite what you were meaning, Dale, please free just miss it. I think we've got Susie. We did have Taylor and Rachel. We've got Susie as well. So if you're like, Craig, that's not what I was meaning, message back in. We've still got about 35 minutes or so to go. We've also got a few just saying how much you're loving this live, which is a really, really nice thing to say. So thank you. Shall we do a third one? Shall we crack on? Let's do a third one. Let's crack open the drink, the water, I mean. Don't think I've ever, well, I was about to say I don't think I've ever talked this much in my life. I probably have. I don't talk this much out of Crafter's Companion when I'm not here. They keep you talking, which is a good thing. Right, let's get these components. So this is going to be another slimline card, and then we're going to change the size of the card. Changing the size of the card. So this one is number 12, and it is thank you. So for this one, we're going with the deep greens, we're going with the dragonflies. What we are going to be doing though is a slimline card. So although kind of the proportion of it is slightly different, we can still follow the same concept. We might just need to slim it down a little bit, or we might need to enlarge the layers that we're using, but you can still follow the same layout when it comes to different sizes. So to start with, we've got our pattern paper, and then we've got our linen cardstock. So if I bring that in with my tape, and we're going to add that one over the top, we're going to position that and press. That's then going to go onto our card. What we're then going to do, I believe that was exactly what Dale, that's it, Dale's just saying exactly what I meant. Thanks, you are more than welcome. I'm glad we were able to help on that one there, Dale. No problem at all. Any other questions like that? You are more than welcome. Please do get them in. We've got I would say about half an hour to go, just shy of half an hour. So get any of your questions or comments in. And then we're going to go in. Now these are the bits now, so we can do more layouts. I'm kind of going to jump forward from the die cutting. I'll talk you through, because with the pink, what I've done is I've used one of the scallop dies. So I've used the scallop dies, and I'm going to reiterate what I said a moment ago. Every bit of die cutting when it comes to this collection, the nesting dies, the tags, the borders, the embellishments, it's the same plate configuration every single time. So you don't need to worry about, was that different compared to the little foliage? Nope, always the same plate configuration. So there is our scalloped square. So if I bring that recipe card in once again for you to see, we've got our sketch, flipping it over, 6 steps, 6 written, measurements are all there for you. So following on, yes, this card within this recipe card is 5 by 7, followed same suit, but done the measurements for a slimline card that you can see here. So instead of the green strips that they've got within this recipe card here, I'm going to go with some of the lilac. So let's add my tape on here. Let me get another tape runner. And we're going to attach that into place. So we're going to add that one on, we're going to add that one on, we're going to add that one on, and do you know what? You could add a fourth if you wanted to. You could have 1, you could have 2. It's up to you. Everything is up to you. So let's sit that to the side just here. Now these have been spaced pretty much on the recipe card of the layout exactly the same. But do you know what? You might want to do that a little bit further along. You might want to come really, really quite close. You might want to leave it just with 2. You might want to then go right to the edge. It's all about the options. So let's press that in. And if you're scared of options, follow the layout cards. It's going to keep you right every single step of the way. So we're going to go in with our next layer. So within that one there, we're going to add that on. So if you see when I bring in the card again, although the card on the recipe card is 5 by 7, I'm still following the layout, even although it's slimline. So I've done my mats and layers, I've still done my 3 strips, I've still done my square scallop to the top, like it's done here. It's just the size of the card that's slightly different. What we're going to do is we're going to bring in our present. Now when it comes to our present, I've coloured them in. All of these have been coloured within my tri-blends, because if you follow myself at Crafter's Companion, you know the tri-blends are always my go-to. And that's already cut, because you don't always have to use the scallop. For instance, this one here, I've used the second square down, because scalloped and straight work really, really well together. Sometimes you think straight nesting dies have to be used with straight nesting dies and scalloped has to be used with scalloped. It's not. You can mix and match. This is where you're going to get all the different layouts and the different looks. That's going to go into there. And then if we still follow the layout, it's got your thank you at the bottom. I've used the banner, but I've used happy birthday instead. So we can take that one off here and that one off. And at this point, follow exactly as it's been done, which would come round about here. But say you want it to come further up. Say you wanted to have it coming down the side. You can do that. Say you want to tuck it under, you can do that. So you can complete your card exactly as the recipe card and then just change it right at the very end. You can do that. But if we turn that one around, that is how it looks. Let me see, what did I say that was? That was number 12 I said, wasn't it? So I should have, let's see, I've got a delete, there we go. So it wasn't even 5 by 7, it was 4 by 6. And look at that. Exactly the same layout, followed exactly the same steps. The only difference was that main layer at the back, instead of doing it 4 by 6, I've done it DL size, which is 4 by 8, roundabout. And then all these layers are the same, it's just different images in different colours. But it's still the same layout. So there you go, one recipe card, then opens up a world of different card sizes. So that is that one. So let's set that one to the side. Notice as well, certainly at the time being, I've not put any gems or that on them. You've got all these gems included as well that you can add on. So I'm going to do our little tidy here. We've got Lois saying that was a lovely card. Vanessa's saying this kit is so cool, I'm loving it. I will start playing with mine. So much possibilities. I could not put a number on the possibilities when it comes to this layout collection. I just couldn't. That one change of colour card, that one change of size of cardstock, that different image, it's going to open up a world of possibilities. We've also got, Susan is saying, you're the best teacher, bless you, thank you. And Amelia, I love that name. Love watching your demos, thank you for sharing your talent. You're more than welcome. I have to thank Sarah for asking me to do this. Without her asking me to do it, you wouldn't have me, so you're passing your thanks on to me and I'm going to pass my thanks on to Sarah. Still any questions, any comments, get them through. I'm going to say keep it. We've got over 20 minutes to go, but to get your comments or any questions in, I would say you've got about 20 minutes just so we've got time to dock back to them and answer them if needed. Right, let's carry on. Let's crack on. Let's go on for another one. This one is completely changing the look of the card, but believe it or not, following the same layout. So if I bring all my goodies in here, so before I show you what I'm going to do, let me get number 14 out, because I think this is going to be a good, so that's 11, 12, I think I'm on to my next one, here we go, we're right to the back, wait you see, 14 will be missing, oh there we go, here it is. So this one is number 14. However, did you get your fuchsia collection? Did you get your fuchsia collection? Technically, that is still the same layout structure of the recipe card within the layout. You're just using your own things. So don't think as though you can't use what you've got at home. You can do. So therefore, let's bring that recipe card into the side so you can get an idea as to the way that I'm following my design. So let's take my bits to the side for now. So all of these components, die-cut frames, etc., are from the Fuchsia collection. And this is a prime example. Whether it's Crafter's Companion or any other brands, you can start to use those collections with your layout collection. So white cardstock, which is my own white cardstock, and I've already cut this to the measurements. It's here, all here. You've got your 6x6 card, your 5 and a bit, your 5 and a half, and your additional 5 and a bit that you've got there that you can then cut to, all in inches. So we're going to do our white onto the olive green. We're going to do the olive onto the fuchsia. And this cardstock is from the Fuchsia collection as well. So this goes to show that you don't have to use the paper and the card that's in the layout. So we're going to add that to our card blank. Let's twist, let's turn all the way around. This time, what I'm going to do for this card, as you can see here, it opens as a traditional style card, but I'm going to change it so it's a 10-fold card. So let's add that on to there. So still following, just following what's in the recipe card, same measurement, same layout, everything. This is where it changes slightly. So we're going to bring these layers in here, and I've got them all cut. These are the frames from the fuchsia. We're going to pop that into there. Let's pop that one into there. And then last but by no means least, let's bring this one into here. So that's going to go there. So let's bring this back in. So instead of having cut pieces of pattern paper or embossed layers from the layout collection in squares, instead of positioning them offset in 3 of them, you're going to do exactly the same, but you're just going to do it with these die-cut frames instead. You don't have to use what's in the layout collection. Do nothing different to what's on there, apart from, instead of the paper, I'm using my die-cut frames. So we're still following that layout. What we can do is then add that on to here. So this one, we're going to go in a bit of an angle, because that top one, we can just see there, is at a bit of an angle. So I'm following exactly as it says. We're going to then go in. Let's get tape runner again. We're going to add that one on. Let's get that going. Let's get my tape runner flowing. Once again, this one has gone to the right hand side, so therefore we're going to do the same here. And then when it comes to this bottom square, we can just see and no more. I've got that on a foam pad, and that one is just going to be offset there. So that's that one. And then what we'll say here is our strip of pattern paper. So I've got my strip of pattern paper here. So for that, because I've got a bit of height with that last small frame that I've done, let's add foam pads onto here. So I'm going to do one there, and then I'm going to do one at the end, and I'm going to do one there. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap there because that's going to take into account that overlay. So peel these ones off like so. So I'm not deviating from this layout, still following the layout. We're going to pop that on, and we're then going to go in. We've already stamped out our You Are So Lovely, and for this one we're then going to go to our circle dies. So I think it was this one that I used earlier on, which that would die cut out there. And then we're going to go to our embellishment dies, where we've got a couple of these love hearts. So if I take that love heart, that, once we've cut that, gives us that one. Same with the sentiment. Once again, I know I keep saying it, but this die cut's the same plate configuration as I've shown you, so it's not as if it's anything different. And that enables us to come along, build our card. So let's do You Are So Lovely. And we're going to then pop that there. We're going to go in with our love heart. And I'm just bringing it in so you can see. The only difference here is the way that I've done the sentiment and the heart. So when it comes to that circle, on the recipe cards, we've actually embossed it. And then I've put the little sentiment on the little tag at the side, and I flipped it and reversed it, because you can do that. That can go down to here. And then the only thing I'm going to do is bring these ones in. So I've already built, these are already layered up. These are all decoupaged, already done. Let's bring them ones in. I want to show as much as I could with the layout, hence why I've already done these fuchsias. So let's add these on. And I will be completely honest with you, if I'm at home, I would add a little bit more adhesive than I'm doing now. I just want to get these on so that you can see the layout, the combination, and then finishing off with the gems as well. So let's take these gems, which are all included. Let's just peel that one off. 1, 2, and then let's just budge them in. So technically, I have still followed exactly what is on that layout card when it comes to the layout, except the card is slightly bigger, and I substitute the die cut squares and embossed detail with my own frames. So as you can see, the layout is pretty much the same. And there you go, there's the indication there of the change. I've stamped on the circle and done my sentiment on the tag, and I've just changed it here ever so slightly the other way around. And that is from number 14. Who would have thought? Who would have thought to start with? You know, not until you actually start to play and you realise, okay, I get the layout. I see what you mean. I'm not stuck to what Crafter's Companion are telling us. Crafter's Companion are basically saying, here's the layouts, here's everything that you need to do it, but then have fun and use what you've got, your own Crafter's Companion stash or any other company stash. I know what you guys are like, you know, whether you're shopping with us or HSN, you've got all the crafty goodies from other brands. You know me, I've been crafting for over 20 years, so my craft room, or certainly my loft at the moment, is jam-packed full of other brands as well. So it's a nice way, you know, you've spent all your hard-earned money on all of these crafty goodies. What a great way to start bringing them out and changing the layouts. Lot of love for the fuchsias, lot of love for the fuchsia. I do like the fuchsia collection. We've also got Trinkle's Garden and Home Life is saying, loving the demos, Craig, thank you, you're more than welcome. Mrs. Simmons 333 on YouTube is saying, so beautiful with the fuchsia collection, yum, it is a yum collection, nice colours. Lynn Bledsoe on YouTube is saying, I love you are showing the layout with birthday cards, as that is always what I need to make the most. It is. Let's face it, most of the cards that we have to make nowadays are birthdays. But it's good to have that layout for, because there's days even for myself, I'm like, what am I going to do? So it's a nice little go-to. It's nice to just get the crafty crafty, no, it's an emoji. Crafty mojo, could be emoji. Mrs. Simmons saying, so clever, all the configurations you are showing us, Craig, the possibilities are infinite, they really are. Shorty Wright is saying on YouTube, we'll always need you to show us how to use the products we buy, thanks. Don't worry, I ain't going anywhere. Lois is saying, beautiful card, and Eleanor is saying, great card. Thank you so much for these lovely comments. I'm so glad that you're loving this couple of hours live, really starting to delve into the layout collection. But we've got 15 minutes left, so let's get another one in at least. We might get another one, and then if I don't see why I can't squeeze 2 in, let's go for it. Let's do it. Let's go into the next one. I'm just thinking, even if I was just to go over by a minute or 2, they're not going to cut me off. They're not going to cut me off. You never know, you never know. We'll get two done. We'll get two done. Right, Mason Day 15. This is number 15 when it comes to the layout collection here. You've got the finished example, but look what I'm going to do. Change it completely. Change it completely with the golds. But what I've also done is where we've got the cross, I've brought it down to the bottom. It's all about that positioning. Very, very easy, very, very simple to do, and it's not daunting whatsoever. So, turning it over, we've got our card base, and we've got all the measurements there. So instead of doing the base of our small 4x4 card, instead of doing that with the yellow, all that I've done is I've taken some navy, real deep navy, and that's going to be matte and layered onto our card. Let's take our tape runner here. I'm going to put that one out of the way so I stop using it. Let's bring that into place here. Then when it comes to the next layer, so the pattern paper that we've got here, I'm going to go in with that beautiful, it's like the night sky. It's actually from the 12 Days of Christmas, that one. And what we're going to do is we're going to layer that onto a little bit of gold. So we're going to add that to the gold. We're going to work our way around, and we're going to pop that into place, like so. For this one, I'm going to keep flat for the time being. So we're going to add our tape on, and then we're going to pop that into place. So at this point, I'm exactly where I am within step number 2. The only difference is the card and the paper that I've used. The layout is exactly the same, and the measurements are exactly the same. The next one, I've got a couple of strips here of white cardstock. So these are the strips. So if you have a look here on the actual recipe card of number 3, it's shown you to go like that, which you can do, but all that I've done is just brought that one down. So what we can do is add our tape on into here. We're going to then position that one on into there. I'm going to pop this one on, and then I've just seen a question come through from Christina. So we'll pause for a sec and answer that. So let's bring that one into here, like so. And then before we go any further, what we're going to do is Christina Sayer on YouTube. She's saying, "Hi Craig, can I ask how I can stop my tape from jamming?" So I'm presuming that must be your tape runner. So when it comes to your tape runner, it's one of those things, and I'm not deviating really because I'm using the tape runners here, but what you want to do, don't do what we do, and that's do it really quick. You know, we're against the time, so don't do it as quick as we do. But what you're wanting to do is you want to hold it at a little bit of an angle. So if I come that way, just here. So we're at a little bit of an angle, and then what you're wanting to do, you know, relatively slow, and then when you get to this point, sometimes this is where it jams, you want to make sure that you just kind of flick to the left or to the right. You're breaking that adhesive strip there. That then means you've got a nice clean edge to keep going. So we're just going to go to the next one, and then we're just going to then flick as well. Every now and again, just make sure, if you think that it's starting to jam, just have a look and just make sure that the actual, kind of like the back end here, it is continuously rolling round the roller. If you start to see it slip off, it doesn't happen a lot because you've got like 2 little barriers here, but that back end of that adhesive strip, make sure it's still flowing around that roller there. But the main thing is, don't do what we do, and that's like that. Do you know what I mean? That's when it can start to jam. So just take your time, stop, flick, and hopefully that's going to help. It's just about the movement of your tape runner. So hopefully that one helps, Christina. Right, let's bring in the card once again, and then let's start to build these ones up. So going in with a bit of our gold cardstock, all that I've done is taken one of the embellishments. What we can do is then bring in the star, and using the star and die cutting, that gives us our little star. A little bit of the navy cardstock, and this is where we're going to start to bring in things such as our tags, which is this one here, and I've gone in with the second smallest one, because the stamp that I've used is our best wishes, which is here. So what you can do, as I said right at the start of this live, you can have a look before you commit to die cutting. pop your die on, and then just hover. Hover, and I can see that best wishes is a good fit, and in actual fact, it would have even fit into the smaller one, and that's actually the one that I've used. So that one for the navy is the second smallest, and then the actual smallest one is what I have used for my best wishes. That's then going to give me that, and then that's going to give me that one. So that's your 2 tags done. Christina, you are more than welcome. You're more than welcome. I'm glad I was able to help you on that one. Let's add these ones on. So I've got my foam pads on the back. All of the black that I've used for any of the stamping, I've used my alcohol proof Noir black. I'm going to overlay that one there and press that one in, and then just bring that back in. So I'm going to pop my sentiment into the top corner, up into here. So again, I'm following this one, but at this point, I'm just changing my sentiment slightly. So I've followed so far with my recipe cards, and then I've decided to change after a certain point. And you can do that. Change it completely, do it as it says, or change halfway. Let's bring in our star. The only thing I would need to do is just add on my organza ribbon, we've got included as well. But then there we go. So there is number 15. And that's how it would be, but by just changing a couple of different angles, that's how we've done that one there. So different one, slightly different, slightly the same, slightly different, but it's a nice way to show how you can use it in that way. Right, what we're like for time. Right, let's bring in another one here. Let's bring this in. We've got about 8 minutes. Really has flown in. Right, let's put that there. I think we're all good. I can tidy all that afterwards. And for this one, what we're going to do, number 18, and that is the beautiful rose. This is a really good one to show you how you can then use scraps or not use full sheets of pattern paper on the back. Now what I mean by that, let's get all our bits here. So I'm going to get that laid out to the front of me here, all ready to go. Now when it comes to my card blank, and for this one, you can see we've gone portrait. I'm going to go horizontal for this one. We're still sticking with the same layout, but instead of doing it portrait, we're just going to turn it on its side. So for this one, you can see you've got your white base at the back. Measurements all there for you, but what it also tells you is to cut a couple of strips of paper. Now you might already have strips that you can then trim till the actual size, but for this is going to be our white panel. Now you may think, which a lot of people would do, would fill that with the pattern paper and then pop that over the top. Now that really is wasting. So what you're going to do, you're going to take these strips, let's pop our tape over the back. We're going to line that to the top, like so. We're going to do the same with our next one. We're going to bring that one down to the base, and then we're going to bring in our piece of card, add our tape. That is then going to overlay onto there, and no one would know that is just potentially two little bits of waste strips of pattern paper, and you've saved yourself so much that would have been hidden underneath. So the only difference there is you can see they've gone portrait, but I've done it horizontal. So that is the only difference, and the rest we can start to follow along. So let's see if I can manage just to prize that, because the one thing I should have done was wrapped my ribbon around. So if I'm not pressed too hard, which I've not, it means I can just prize that. And for this one, if you're wanting to do it at a different angle, but maybe you get a little bit confused to start with, just start off in the portrait position. Follow along as if you are doing it in the portrait, and then when it comes to finish the decoration, you can then just come along and then change it and twist it and turn it so that you are horizontal. So there's one, and then we're just going to do our next cross, As I say, it's a lot easier if you do it before you stick down, but just jumping the gun there. Let's press that, twist that around. So we've got our little cross. I'm just going to hold, press. Now that I'm happy that's how I want it, I'm just going to press fully down. And then there, we've got our cross that we can see. We're going to be moving into our next step that we can see, which these ones here are actually the little banners. So these are the banners, which will be little tabs instead. So we've got the 3 of these. These 3 are 3 of the 4 that you've got included here. So I don't need that one. We've got that one there. And then they've stuck them down here. I'm just going to wait a minute because what I want to do is I want to bring in my image. So I've got my butterflies here that I've stamped out. You've got all of those stamps included as well. And they've done the rose, but as you can see here, I've done the butterflies. And then using one of the square nesting dies, which if I bring it in here, I've used that one to die cut out. That gives me my butterflies, and I've just coloured in with my tri-blends. And here, what they've done, in here, they've used a yellow cardstock. I've just used a blue. So I've gone in with the next square up. So if I bring that one in, the next square up from that one, which gives me that one. And then I just need to then layer those 2 together. So let's add that on there, there, and there. I'm going to then position that. I'm going to hold that one on to there. Now remember, I'm going to then twist and turn. So for this, what I'm going to do, and actually the way that I've done this one, I've actually got my cross on the other way around, but that doesn't matter. It's another way, it's another direction in which you can take your card and your project. So for this one, before I commit to that, what I'm going to do is let's add our tabs, and then I'm going to get them where I want. Actually, I quite like the way this layout's going actually, crossing over when it comes to the ribbon. So let's take these foam pads off, and these ones, what we're going to do is we're going to cross over as well. So I'm just going to cross and press. I am just going to cross and press that into place. Take the backing off my foam pads that I've already got here, and then to hide those little workings, we're going to pop that there, like so. And then when it comes to all of these little bit of pattern papers, I've then got my love heart there, I've got my love heart there, I've even got my strip that I've not even popped down, but if we then carefully prise that up, we're going to add our tape on into place. I'm going to turn that on. It's easier for me to turn on its side. Press that in. And then we can bring in the love hearts. So the love hearts, I'm going to add into here. And then with this love heart, we're going to go down into the bottom corner, like so. And then I've got a couple of little gems here. Let's bring in a little pokey tool. And for this one, what we can then do is we're going to pop 1, we're going to do 2, and then let's do the 3rd one here, like so. And then there we go. We've got our layout. So if I bring that one out, whereas it would be kind of that way, but I've changed it on its side, and then there we go. Using a lot of little, what would be scraps. You know, if you've been using this for a short while, you're going to have lots of little offcuts, lots of little scraps that you, of course, be using along the top. You could be using them for the banners if you want to, many, many different ways. But I hope you've enjoyed these couple of hours. It has gone in so quick. I cannot believe how quick it is. Thank you for all of the love when it comes to the last couple of hours here. Hope you found it helpful and beneficial. I know many of you are saying that you absolutely did, which is lovely to see. I hope you're enjoying your layout collection. If you've not started to play with it yet, please get it out, have a little dabble, just follow with what's on the recipe cards. Do make sure as well, if you feel confident and up to posting them on social, pop them into the group, of course, tag Crafters Companion, and you are more than welcome to tag myself as as well. It's going to be lovely to see what you've done as well. This layout collection, the TS that Sarah had on HSN a couple of weeks ago, really is an absolute essential. Yes, for beginners, but if you've been crafting 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or more, you'll have seen all of these dies, these stamps. These are key essential tools and dies, stamps, folders for you to be using time and time again. You're going to be able to use them, of course, with the layout collection because they all tie together. But the key thing is as well, get all your other stuff out. So instead of using the butterfly stamps that you've got included within the layout collection, use your butterfly stamps from way back in Vintage Butterfly. You're just replicating what is on the recipe cards and you're changing the look. But you can keep it very simple. I have had an absolute blast. Thank you so much for all your lovely comments. I will see you again very soon for another layout collection live class.